So this week we're going to be looking at, I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to be looking at Google Analytics, and I wanted this to be something that's going to be helpful for everyone. And can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so whether you have Google Analytics set up or not, or have used it in the past a little bit, or, I want this to have some value to everybody regardless. So hopefully as we go through this, it will be helpful. We do like to have this conversational, and to give you a brief background on Gig Strategic, we're an agency, a digital marketing agency. Our goal is to help businesses successfully compete in the digital economy. And I've been in this business for over 10 years and worked at a large agency here in Charlottesville. Learned a lot about advertising, and then I've been also learning a lot about like paid search and display ads and things like that. And then also learning like data-driven approach, performance-based. How do we measure our performance? How do we track success? So that's where I got into learning and digging into Google Analytics as a place to really understand my website and performance. And this, so I do want to talk briefly. This is like the intro here to this that is maybe off topic, but I did want to talk about websites briefly. So your website is your business. And I thought this would be interesting to look at some website stats. Small businesses, still a lot of businesses surprisingly don't have websites built. The ones that do definitely make more money, of course. Kind of seems obvious there. And then of the a lot of them that are built, they don't have a call to action. So when I'm thinking about analytics, it's not just because I want to think about the data. It's like, what does it mean? And what do I do with it? So so hopefully that some of these things can be actionable. So as we're looking at our websites, we're using the data from analytics to get an idea of what's happening with how users are interacting with our website. But we want to think about things like, is there a call to action? We want to make sure that we have things like that set up. 68% don't have an email address on the home page. A lot of online visits, sales are lost because people can't find content. Small business websites, a lot of them don't have social media accounts. And if they do, I have found a lot of them aren't pointing to them from their website, from their homepage. So those are some of the things that I wanted to think about as an intro as we go into this. And I've even brought a couple examples here. So the musts of your website, you got to tell people who you are and what you do. For some established businesses, you probably have this under control, but a lot of small businesses are just getting started, just building websites, or maybe need to update their websites. This was a mobile experience for a landscaper in Charlottesville that I was looking at, and there were several things that jumped out on this that said, okay, well, what does he do? You can see sort of landscaping up here, and but it's really not a user friendly experience. We want to make sure that people can contact you. This was an HVAC company I saw, and I grabbed this. And so you can see on your mobile experience for your website, you can do things to make sure that people can contact you: phone, email, social, link through this website. So then a little bit about your brand. Who are you? Why you? We want to just make sure that we're communicating these things on our website. That goes to what Joe and Shelly so graciously shared with us and taught us about last week. And so we really appreciate that piece on knowing who your brand is now and how important that is. And then there are some other considerations with your website that are really, really important that I have to point out to start. And that is, we want to always be user focused. So user experience is so important, customer experience, and analytics can give us some feedback on that to understand that. And let's see. Got somebody else joining. So welcome to those just joining. We're getting underway here, and we will have this recorded so that you can check it out afterwards if you missed anything at the beginning. But really just talking about the musts of our website right now, importance of our website, and let's see. Some of the technical considerations, SSL security is really, really important. It's a ranking factor. We know that for SEO. And here's an example I show here of this online marketing Charlottesville, one of the top organic listings down here. When you click on it, the view came up with this because it's not secure. So we want to make sure that our website's secure. So we want to see that. So these are just a couple little pointers I wanted to talk about. Latency. Web page performance test, how quickly is your page loading for users? We know that people, if it's not loading in like 2 to 5 seconds, they're bouncing. So that can impact the bounce rate and things like that. Is it mobile responsive? Most sites now are. And then there are some SEO best practices that we'll talk about in another one of these sessions. But the making this is a website, and I just want to point out a couple things that are really great about this website. It's secure. We got that up here. We've got the call to action, call us today. Over here on the right hand side, you can see, schedule your service. There's a contact us form. We've got our brand, making health, safety, and comfort our #1 priority since 1988. So you can see there's a lot of, this is like, to me, a great example of a website that's doing a lot of these things right, okay? So having said all of that, that's kind of my intro into, and then here's some helpful tools that you can use to check your website to see how it's working and things like that. But all of this is to say, so that's all great, right? But how do I know if it's working or not? And that's why we're having this call today, because we want to know what the data is. And that's where analytics can be so important for best understanding that traffic. So knowing your numbers, and this is and I say, but why here? To me, all of the data analysis, all the data number crunching, all of that data that we can get, it doesn't really do anything unless we can make sense of it, right? We can put it together in a way that tells a story, and then we can take action based on it, or even come up with a hypothesis for testing different things and so on. Can anybody on the call, and this is where it starts to get interactive, and Joe was really great, and Shelly last week calling people out, but what can you all think of would be some reasons why you might need to know or want to know the numbers when it comes to your website traffic?
This is John over at 311 Printing.
Hey, John.
So one thing I would want to know, especially when it comes to products, I want to know, like, okay, what products are the ones that are selling the most, the ones that have visited the most? So, for example, banners, yard signs, brochures, stuff like that. You want to know what those numbers look like, because that's the products that are going to sell the most. And that way you want to make sure, okay, that's the products that people are looking at the most. It's a way for us to keep product in-house. It's a way for us to push product out of the house. And then you can also look and see, okay, these are the products that people aren't really necessarily looking at. So, do we make the push for those products, or do we not make the push for those products? That's one thing that's important when I'm looking at those numbers, because then you can make a determination of, okay, this is the product that sells the best. This product does not sell the best. And we can cut the dead weight.
That's good. Anyone else have other things they might be wanting to know, like why you would want to look at the numbers, traffic data from your website?
Yeah, this is Alice. I want to know where people are coming from to my website. So are they coming through social media? Are they coming through different, advertising campaigns, or direct, or, through Google search? That's what I want to know. So I know where to spend my efforts to drive people to my website.
All right. That's great. That's a good one. Anyone else?
This is John again. And I like I really like looking at social numbers as well. Then you can look at the demos that are going onto your site. You can look at, the ages. You can look at, what's fitting best for each particular business. It's a good way to, track those numbers, look at those numbers, and really see, okay, these are the people that are hitting the site. These are the zip codes that are hitting the site. These are the areas. It's just like she said, that's, we definitely want to see where people are coming from, and, what are the pages they're visiting the most.
Another element might be as well, time spent on site. So if you got this site and you got people going to it, but they're bouncing after 2 seconds, you're not doing it right. Something's clearly wrong.
Right.
Yeah, these are all great, great things to bring up. So knowing your numbers, but why? And so we're talking about this, and so. And what's funny to me is a lot of small business owners, they are business owners in general. They know their numbers. You know your inventory typically. You know how many calls are coming in. You know how many people are reaching out through maybe different, if they're calling from the phone, if they're filling out contact forms, if they're, reaching out through email. We have a lot of numbers and a lot of data that we track for our business, but for some reason, it seems like a lot of businesses don't track their website, and they don't understand their website. And as I said at the beginning, your website is your business in a lot of ways, and we're seeing that more now than ever, where that is where people are interacting with your brand and with your businesses maybe through your website or through social platforms, things like that. But it is all more online. So these are all great points. Like, where is the traffic coming from? Not only from referral sites, but where is it coming from location wise? And then how can I take action to improve those things? So benchmarking for me is the first thing. And I talked about this in one of our recent conversations we had, and we talked about if we're going to go somewhere, the first thing we need to know is where we are now, right? And so if we have no idea what our website traffic is like, we have no idea to gauge performance for the future. So benchmarking is one thing. Performance tracking, as was mentioned, which pages are people going to, what products are people viewing, and then are they converting on those products? Is it whatever it is it working? And so whatever it is, those can be various marketing channels and things like that, as was mentioned, social, other paid search maybe, or other partner sites, things like that. So we can use it for research. We can actually use this to get a little bit of a better idea of customer research. I mean, one of the most important things for a brand to know is what our customer actually looks like. Who is our customer? What are they interested in? What are they like? And so we can actually get some customer research out of our Google Analytics. And then, as Joe was talking about, that customer experience, that user experience on the site. Are they just coming and bouncing? They spend 4 seconds on the site. Maybe our site doesn't have very good quality content. The content maybe isn't the best quality. There maybe aren't other things that are engaging them and driving them deeper into our site. So those are some things that we can learn and maybe want to look at when we're knowing our numbers. So then I said, well, why Google Analytics? Was one of the questions I was asking myself. It's funny, the agency I initially worked at, we did not use Google Analytics a lot, and we had other proprietary tools that we used. But why Google Analytics? There's a couple reasons. Number one, over 29 million websites are using it, and out of the top 10,000 websites out there, 88% of them are using Google Analytics. And the reason that they're using it is because it's so good at data visualization, at taking all of that, those ones and zeros, all of that information, and they are able to put it into a way that we can clearly make sense of that information through the dashboards, through Google Analytics. So it's a great product. I mean, Google does a great job. There's a lot of concern about Google, and I totally understand, and I get that as far as privacy, as far as other things. There are definitely some issues. Data in general, Amazon, all of these big online companies are using data, and privacy there's gonna be constant conversations about things like in Europe with the right to be forgotten, and some of the different laws that are being passed to protect the customer data. Customer privacy laws are an important thing, but we also have these tools available to us. So as businesses, if we can use them, we should definitely, in my opinion, definitely try to use them in order to get a competitive advantage, to best learn how to serve our customers, and to best grow our business. So I did want to briefly talk about how to set it up. And so just in case you don't have it set up, and one thing, if somebody else built your website, one thing to do, you can check your website. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna jump here, and can you all see my screen? Let me see, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so this is my website, right? If you right click on your website and you view the page source, is one thing you can do. Control F can find, and then I just look for UA hyphen, and that tells you right here that you can see where my Google Analytics is, the UA tag here. So if you're wondering, do you have Google Analytics? That's a quick, easy way to do it. Go to a page, search, you know, the source code, and look to see if you have that that information there on the source code. All right. So back to our presentation. So then if you don't have a Google Analytics account, you can set one up. And I recommend you do this with your business Gmail, that you have some sort of business Gmail that's set up that is connected for your Google properties for any Google product that you're using. And this way it's in one place. It's maybe not your personal Gmail, but it's one that's associated with your business, that you can share with people that you trust, that work with you, with agencies and other people that are helping your business. But you can also transfer that to the next person so that it doesn't get lost. I see this happen pretty frequently where people lose access to Google My Business, they lose access to Google AdWords, and other platforms as well, even Facebook and things like that. So it's always good to think about, how do I keep this access to my business accounts? So, you know, associating this with a business Gmail would make sense. Same login that you use for your Google My Business, you know, use it for your Google Analytics. You set it up, and then you can go into it down here in your settings, and you can get the tracking info. Click on tracking code, and you'll find out what your number is. And you'll also get the snippet of code that can be inserted into your website, either by yourself, if you manage your own website, or if you have a web developer, you can send that to, ideally, that they could then implement that properly and make sure that it's working on your website. So find that tracking ID and then add it to your site. So how to set it up. And I did want to, I know somebody on the call had asked, was looking at GoDaddy, and a lot of these platforms out there have very easy ways to add Google Analytics, because we saw already 88% of the top 10,000 sites use it. Many sites do use Google Analytics. So if you go into GoDaddy, edit the site settings, boom, sign up for Google Analytics, find my tracking code, and you can just put it right there into the website builder there. This is Squarespace. So Squarespace has the same idea here. Settings, code injection, we can put it right into the header. This is the Divi theme. Divi theme is a popular theme that sits on WordPress. You go into Divi theme integration, and you can enter it right there. And then a newer one I hadn't been as familiar with, and again, this is one where, if you're, depending on where you fall in the giving Google too much access to everything, the Sitekit is something that can be added to your website, and this will integrate to all of the various Google properties and tools and so on. So so those are some ways to get it set up if you don't have it set up. So I did want to at least touch on that. And next, now here's where we get into some fun stuff. We're going to jump into our actual walkthrough of some analytics. And if you want to raise your hand if you have used Google Analytics before. So I don't see any hands raised. Okay. So I'm going to assume that means either we're too shy to raise our hand because we're worried I'm going to pick on you, or maybe you haven't used it before. So if you haven't used it, this should be really a lot of great information here. I'm going to keep this pretty basic because I don't want to go too deep into this. This is my site. So I'm kind of giving you the back, you know, the view into the back end of my site here, and you can see the home here. We've got basic information that Google will show here with our audience, active users right now, all this various data that's here, and there's so much to this. The best way to learn it really is to just play. Just play in here, click around, try different things. But a few things that I definitely want to hit on that I'll point out as we go through this to start is, you want to look at your audience, the overview of your audience. Okay, and we've got up in the top right here, we've got date ranges that we can set up. So I can set this up to view. We'll look at year to date here, okay? So we can see my data over the past 4 months, right? And we can look at it by day, by week, by month. And up here, you can see the various ways that we're looking at this data. And here we're looking at users. So the users that have been to my site. You can see it kind of went up in February, dropped pretty dramatically in March, and then it's coming back up a little bit in April. Okay, so you can see we're starting to get some information here, okay? And as you can see, tons and tons of data here, right? So one of the important things as you get your Google Analytics set up is demographic data, okay? If you do not have this set up or activated, by default, it is just gonna not collect any information. So you'll want to actively go into demographics and make sure that this is set up, all right? Once you do that, you'll be able to start to get an idea of the age of your traffic, the gender. So you can see here in this year to date, just over about 52% female versus 48% male. Most of my users that come to Gig Strategic are 25 to 34. So you can start to get some ideas of some of these types of things. So this is where that customer research piece can be really helpful. I can look at interest even of the traffic. All right, so I've got different in-market segments. We were running some employment ads earlier this year, so it makes sense that people were coming here that were interested in employment. Business services, advertising, and marketing services. Obviously, that makes that makes sense for my company. So it means that the traffic that's coming that we're able to track through Google Analytics, some of that makes sense as far as we're hitting the right audience and we're driving that traffic to our website. So this is some of the market research that we can get from our data in Google Analytics. One of the things that was mentioned that I think is very, very important is location. So you can look at where the traffic comes from. So this was mentioned by John, where is it coming from? What zip codes, is what he had said. We can parse this out in a bunch of different ways here. And you can start to see, for me, obviously, Virginia is where we're based, and that makes the most sense. So we have a lot of traffic from Virginia, but we have some from California. Maybe this is the person visiting from Oregon that's on the call today. But we see these users here, and we can click down, drill down deeper into the state. To me, this is really, really important for, especially when we're paying for advertising. We can look at a secondary dimension here, which I know I'm going a little deep into some of the weeds here, but we can actually parse this out into some different ways. So we can actually see if, for example, Alice mentioned the wanting to know where that traffic is coming from to see if a paid campaign is working out. If I'm doing display ads, is that working for me? But what we want to make sure is that if I'm doing a display campaign, am I targeting, is the agency I'm working with targeting the area that I want to target? That can be a setting that is missed sometimes. So I want to make sure that if I'm advertising in Virginia, when I look at that source, I want to see that traffic is coming from Virginia. Does that make sense? Yes, good. So, this is just one way as you're spending money on advertising. And I didn't include a lot of data from my advertisers that I work with in here because I didn't have permission. I didn't ask ahead to get that information, to get that, and I didn't have time to go through and blur out and actually provide some data of our clients. But it is important to see if I'm doing a paid search campaign and I'm geo-targeting an area, right? If I'm only looking at the East Coast or Virginia or like a tri-state area, I want to make sure that my traffic is in those areas, that it's coming from those areas. And I can do that by looking at my audience and looking at geo and location, all right? So there's a lot of other things you can see in here as well. So then I did jump ahead to acquisition. So this is an important one for understanding channels. So this was the other thing that Alice talked about was, why would I use this? What would be why would I want to be able to look at this data? I want to see what channels are working for me. And you can see here for me, I've got direct traffic, organic search, social, and referral traffic are the main sources that are showing up here for me. over the past 6 months. And you can see some of that traffic here. And you can see the pie graph here. Direct traffic is somebody that has my site maybe bookmarked and they're jumping right to it. They're clicking right to my site. Organic traffic is, it's coming up in natural search. So they're searching through Google or through Yahoo or Bing. And we can actually dig into each of these channels to look and see what keywords are being used, but we can also look at things like the medium and the source. So, you know, I'm getting some traffic from Bing that's organic. I'm getting some from Yahoo. So you can see some of the other traffic sources. So this is where we can see where that traffic is coming from, is right here in the acquisition section. All right. I'm going to move quickly now into behavior. This is, I know it can be tedious when we're working with data, but to me, if you're a data junkie, this stuff is exciting. And if you're a business owner, when you're looking at making revenue, revenue is exciting, right? We want to all make money, right? That's what we're in business to probably make money. That's important, you know, so we can stay in business. Well, this can help us. This information can help us with that. So understanding now behavior of the traffic, this is where we can get ideas about the quality of the traffic. What pages are they visiting on our site? How many visits are coming to those pages? So this is where we can get, like John was talking about. If I have a website, I've built it out, and I've got 100 products or services on there, and I don't know which ones people are visiting, I'm missing out on some data that can be very valuable to me. Maybe there's one product that we don't know about that people are, a lot of traffic is going to that page and they're looking at that product. Well, maybe we should be promoting that product. Maybe it's something that there's more demand for that product than we were aware of. So that's one way for us to start to capture some of that information and be able to make actionable decisions based on that. You can see here the number of page views, unique views, average time on site. So about 45 seconds for these, for my pages here. So then you can look at, well, which pages are people spending more time on? Which ones do people find more valuable that they're actually spending time on? So we can drill down into that as well. And then you can also set up other tracking for conversions and so on. So there's a lot of information, as you can see, within Google Analytics that we can get from this. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up here. I've got one last page. So what do we do about this? So, you know, we've looked at it. You've seen that there's a lot of power. I don't know if you haven't ever worked in Google Analytics before, that was probably like drinking through a fire hose, and I get it. It takes time to dig through all that information. But the thing that you now know is what is available. You know, what you can actually see and not see through Google Analytics as one of the analytics tools out there. You can get a lot of information about your traffic, about how people are interacting with your website. And we talked about some of the ways that we might use that information. So what do we do now? Well, if you haven't got it set up, get some sort of analytics set up on your website, whether Google Analytics or something else. Make sure if it is Google Analytics, you unlock that demographic data so you can start to collect that information and then thoughtfully use it. So, you know, all of this information, if we don't take action or if we don't do anything about it, is just information. And it was another Zoom meeting, and we all have many, many Zoom meetings that we can be on throughout the week. I know there's some Zoom fatigue that's going on with a lot of folks. I get it. I understand for sure. So we want to make sure that we're bringing value here. So how can I thoughtfully use this information? So I'm going to ask this question, you know, what will you track in May? And how will you improve it? So what are the things that you would track based on what we just looked at? What would you be tracking next month? And then what would you do about that information? If you can, now that you know what you can see, has this sparked any ideas for anybody? Do you see the value to this? And how do you think you might use it in May? So I'm going to open it up to anybody to.
I'll jump in. So this is Nina with DNS Wines, and I'm looking at this thinking about the fact that I didn't raise my hand because I've never looked at Google Analytics, I admit, but I'm thinking about everything really differently right now, and kind of smacking myself in the forehead that I didn't know this sooner, but better late than never. Anyway, but in terms of when we send out our May offers, a lot of times we'll put out special offers or things like that. We'll send those with emails, redirect people back to our website. We're, you know, adding some new features to the website and posting some videos and that kind of thing. But it would be interesting to actually take a look at April's traffic and then see really what happens when we put something out, how quickly people respond. I mean, just kind of watch it, just have fun with it. Send something out, see how many people come back or don't, and what the kind of click-through rate is. Just all, it's so much that's there, but I can see how you could very quickly get into this and get into it a lot, watching your numbers.
Absolutely. Anyone else? I know, like Joe and Shelley, probably. I'm with you know, if you're launching a new TV campaign for one of your clients or a radio campaign, and if that was the thing that hasn't really changed, we're launching that in May, and then we can look at, well, in the TV campaign or radio campaign, are we trying to drive traffic to the website? And then looking at month over month and year over year data, we can actually, if we've been collecting that, see that and be able to see some of the lift that we may be seeing because of those external advertising efforts.
You're correct. And a lot of what we watch out for as well, if there's a specific tactic, of course, there's going to be a landing page for it. But we are also always very concerned with the overall brand. So one thing I keep my eyes on all the time are your organic and direct. The more, if you're a brand new company, most times people aren't going to know your name. You have to educate them on your name. But the more they become educated, or the more they become aware, they start to search more directly for your name. They might go directly to your website. So we always try to push for a healthy balance of that organic and direct versus paid sources. If we see 99% is paid traffic coming in, and it's 2 years into the brand, we know we're not doing our jobs right. So we always look for that healthy balance.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I would say, for me, this is Nicole with Rejuvenation Skin Lab. I'm really intrigued by the demographic tracking because I know what I think it is, but I have a feeling that I'll probably be surprised in what shows up. And I can use that to alter my message or the information that I'm putting out there depending on the demographic that I'm highlighting based on specials or particular times of year. So that looks like it's going to be really useful.
And there's other insight too. You can even see times of day that people go to your site, and that's extra insight as well. And John, with Atlas 42, we originally, this was data they had, but we were able to confirm it too, that a lot of people, this is back when you could do corporate events, the people were booking their corporate events Sunday nights. That Sunday night was a prime time, and we would have never guessed that. But the office manager, the assistant, the person who's in charge, HR manager there, who's booking those events, may not have time during the week, may not have the capability to focus on it, but Sunday nights when they're getting ready for the week, they do. And that was a really valuable insight that helped us in the rest of our strategies. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff you might find.
Yeah, well, going to Joe's point, we were talking about when they go and look online. One thing I love to dig into is when it comes to social analytics, like with Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, I like to see, like, okay, when's the best time on Instagram for my demo, for my business, and work at that angle. What's the best day to do it at the best time for, like, for example, for 311 printing, I've noticed that the best times have been mornings, right? When everybody gets up, and between 7 and 9 is like a good time. And then maybe later in the afternoon, but you try to figure out what time is the best time to do it. But from the print side of things, as far as taking those numbers, we have to think about, okay, how do we adjust for when COVID-19 is on the downtrend, and what businesses are going to be looking for when they start to reopen again. Are they looking for banners to let people know we're open? Are they looking for yard signs to let people know, hey, we're open? Are they looking for upgrades on their graphics on their doors or their windows to let people know of time changes, or hey, we're open, or floor graphics to let them know, okay, we've adjusted the social distancing. So we're looking at all that stuff right now to see what's going to be the top 3 to 5 things that companies, businesses, small businesses are going to be looking for once things start to open back up again.
Yeah. Another thing I just thought of too is for the winery, for example, depending on your distribution, what states you're shipping to, you'll know some of that. But it would be interesting to see where people are coming to your website. If there's certain locations that are coming to your website that seem to be more interested in your product, you could look at maybe doing some targeted advertising into those locations to improve conversions and get more folks that for whatever reason may be more interested in your product. So that's one thing I was thinking of. You know, and then also like you're talking about with social channels, we've seen historically very little traffic comes from social channels to websites. But if you're running a lot of social posts that you're doing and so on, you know, think about it. If you make a concerted effort to drive that traffic to your website, you know, then you should hopefully start to see some of that, some growth there as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some campaigns where we have, you know, the social is usually that first stop for anybody looking at, okay, what's, you know, it's either going to be Google or it's going to be social. And we try to build campaigns around, you know, like if we're promoting a banner sale or a yard sign or whatever, you know, we hit the social first, gear it, and then see where the traffic, see if the traffic hits right. You know, if it doesn't, you know, we try another approach to it. But you know, the social has really helped us out a lot, especially during this time, getting the message out about, hey, we can help your business with, you know, this, and this. So, you know, and again, that's where you go back and you dig in those numbers and you see what really is working, what really is not working.
Inside Google My Business, you can look at, there's an analytics section as well. It's a simplified version, much more simplified version, but you can see how people are going to your site, finding you in Google, along with how they found you, like if they found you via a certain search phrase, if they found you via a specific, mostly it's the search phrases. So those pieces right there are very insightful. Like with Mark, Tech for Troops, who's on here, we're looking at Google My Business, and you know, part of the ways people are finding Tech for Troops is through donations, through recycling centers, through Veterans Affairs, through veterans organizations. Those are all critical pieces. So moving forward, that's good information. Pretty much knew most of that, but that's good information to have. And maybe there might have been something in there we didn't see, and that would give us an opportunity or something to correct or change.
Yeah, preparing for this, even I saw a couple, I did have conversions, and I have a thank you page that I've set up when people request our free report through our site, the free snapshot report. It triggers a thank you page, and I count that as a conversion. So I see that data, and I was surprised to see that LinkedIn had actually been had been attributed the last click that led to that conversion. So it makes me think, well, LinkedIn maybe is a channel I'm overlooking that's actually driving people to fill those out. Now, what may be interesting in all honesty is that when we're doing these Thursday noon meetings, people are getting introduced to Gig. You may go look at our profile on LinkedIn, and then you're going obviously, and then converting from there. So attribution is a piece to this that I didn't get into, but Google does have some attribution modeling programs that they include that you can also opt into. You have to unlock and opt into those, but it is interesting to start to see some of that, what that attribution looks like.
So I can tell you what that was, James. Nina actually sent me your information and said you really need to do this, so I did, and I was off of LinkedIn.
Ah, there you go. Well, that was one of them. Well, thanks, Mark.
You're
I
welcome.
hope you found some valuable information there.
It was, and I just got to find out what John's doing right now because he looks like he's exercising or something. There's something going on there.
I'm actually walking through the shop. I was telling Joe and James before we got on the call that I'm working on a printer and loading a print head and checking out its graphics and making sure that everything's running right with it. We had to replace one this morning, so I'm going back and forth.
It looked like you were taking a breakdancing class or something.
I was. I got to keep up with my skills.
Well, thank you all very much for being here today. And I do hope you found some information useful here and something that you can take action on. Definitely got a few more minutes here. So if there's any last minute questions, if anybody had questions about anything with analytics or anything else they wanted to talk about, feel free.
And also, as one extra side note, next week we're the same time, same Zoom channel. We'll be we're gonna, I believe it's social media, just some simple social media insights, some different steps, some best ways to get your brand out from someone that a bunch of us work with. She's a local social media. She has a local business here. Does a lot of video. She's really involved in your social reputation. So she'll be talking about that next week, and again at the same time. So feel free to join. If you know anyone else who'd like to participate, share this with them, let them know. James has been recording all of these sessions. They're all set up on YouTube, so you can watch our past few ones on branding, on Google My Business, and there are a few more, and I can't remember them. But because all the days tend to blur in virus land here, everything blurs together. But we do have it documented, and it's all there. And we'll follow up with other emails here as well for as a reminder for next week.
I would just let everybody know Joe is not a blurry type of guy. It's just he's not. All right, bye everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.